The wind howled across the rocky plains of New Horizon, carrying dust that glinted like tiny metal shards under the pale orange sky. HFY Park stood at the entrance of the research station, her hand resting on the rough stone wall. Her eyes scanned the barren landscape, a view she had seen countless times but never grew tired of watching. New Horizon was not a beautiful planet. It was harsh, unforgiving, and mostly covered in rocky terrain that looked more like a battlefield than a potential home. Yet, for the past 30 years, humans had made this world their own. They had transformed empty caverns into living spaces, turned hard rock into farmlands, and created a community that survived against all odds. HFY was a geological engineer, one of the best in the colony. At 32, she had spent most of her life understanding the planet's hidden secrets. Her work was more than just a job. It was a mission to ensure human survival in this challenging environment. Today was different. Her handheld scanner had been acting strange for the past week. The readings were unusual electromagnetic signals that didn't match any known natural phenomenon. Most researchers would have ignored these small variations, but not HFY. She knew that in a colony like New Horizon, every small detail could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Inside the research station, holographic maps and geological charts covered the walls. Computers hummed quietly, processing data from underground sensors. HFY walked to her main workstation and connected her field scanner. The moment the device linked to the main computer, a series of complex patterns appeared on the screen. "What are you trying to tell me?" she muttered, her fingers moving quickly across the holographic interface. The signals were coming from deep underground, almost 2 kilometers beneath the colony's main settlement. They were consistent, rhythmic, but completely alien. They didn't resemble any geological activity HFY had ever studied. Each pulse seemed deliberate, almost like a coded message waiting to be understood. Her colleague, Seok-Jin Kim, entered the room. He was the colony's communication specialist, a man who spent most of his time listening to the vast emptiness of space. "Another late night?" he asked, placing a cup of synthetic coffee next to her. HFY didn't look up. "These signals, they're not random. Look at this pattern." She pointed to the screen, where blue and green electromagnetic waves danced in a complex rhythm. Seok-Jin leaned closer. His eyes, sharp and analytical, studied the data. "This doesn't match any known geological or atmospheric interference," he said slowly. "Exactly," HFY replied. "It's like something is trying to communicate. But from where? And who?" The colony of New Horizon had been deliberately isolated by the Galactic Concordance. Officially, they were an experimental settlement, a polite way of saying they were considered dangerous and unpredictable. Humans were still new to interstellar exploration, and many alien species feared their rapid adaptation and technological progress. But HFY and her team didn't see themselves as a threat. They were explorers, scientists, people who had been given a chance to build a new world from nothing. Every challenge was an opportunity. Every unknown was a mystery waiting to be solved. As night fell and the orange sky turned deep purple, HFY continued her research. The mysterious signals kept pulsing, a silent message hidden deep within the planet's rocky heart. Something was waiting to be discovered, and she was determined to uncover its secrets. Seok-Jin Kim's communication center was a small, dimly lit room filled with complex equipment. Screens covered every wall, each displaying different frequencies, encrypted channels, and data streams from across the galaxy. Most people would see nothing but noise, but Seok-Jin saw a web of information waiting to be understood. His fingers moved quickly across the holographic controls. Today was different. The background noise seemed wrong. Not broken, but carefully manipulated. Like someone was trying to hide something between the lines of communication. He had been working late again, a habit born from years of listening to the silence between radio signals. Most communication specialists would have missed it. A tiny fragment of data that didn't belong. But Seok Jin was not most specialists. The fragment was short. Just a few seconds of encrypted transmission that seemed to slip through the Galactic Concordance's communication blockade. Most would have ignored it, but something about the encryption pattern caught his attention. "Computer," he spoke clearly, "run full spectrum analysis on this signal fragment." The station's advanced AI began working. Lines of code scrolled faster than human eyes could follow. Minutes passed. Then, unexpectedly, the computer stopped. "Partial decryption complete," the AI announced. "Transmission suggests systematic information suppression targeting human colonies." Seok Jin's breath caught in his throat. He pulled up the decoded fragments, his hands moving quickly to piece together the message. It wasn't a complete communication, but what he saw was disturbing. Words and phrases jumped out. Human adaptive potential, technological limitation protocols, containment strategy, potential galactic disruption. The Galactic Concordance had always been controlling. Every human colony knew that. But this was different. This was deliberate and systematic suppression of human potential. He remembered the stories his grandmother used to tell, how humans had been considered newcomers in the galactic community, how other species viewed them with a mix of fear and confusion. Humans adapted too quickly. Humans innovated too rapidly. Humans didn't follow the established rules. And now he had proof. Just then, Jaehua entered the communication center. She looked tired but excited. "Seok Jin, the underground signals I showed you earlier, they're getting stronger." He turned to her, his face serious. "We have a bigger problem," he said, pointing to the decoded transmission. Jaehua read the fragments. Her scientific mind quickly processed the implications. "They're afraid of us," she said quietly. Not just cautious, genuinely afraid. The Galactic Concordance had a complex system of colony management. New species were monitored, controlled, their technological growth carefully limited. Humanity had always been an outlier, developing faster, thinking differently, challenging existing systems. "We need to gather more evidence," Seok Jin said. "This can't just be a random transmission. There's a pattern here." Jaehua nodded. Her geological research and his communication expertise suddenly felt connected. The mysterious underground signals and these hidden transmissions, they were pieces of a larger puzzle. Outside the communication center, New Horizons' harsh landscape remained unchanged. Rocky plains stretched under the orange sky, hiding secrets beneath their surface. But inside this small room, two humans were about to uncover a truth that could change everything. The underground research facility hummed with quiet energy. Hyunmi Lee stood before a massive holographic display, her eyes reflecting the changing patterns of light and data. She was different from most quantum engineers. Where others saw complexity, she saw possibilities. The electromagnetic signals that Jaehua had discovered were now consuming every waking moment of the research team's life. What had started as a strange geological anomaly was quickly becoming something much larger. "This is impossible," Hanmi muttered, tracing a complex pattern on the holographic interface. The signals were talking, not in words, but in a language of mathematical precision that seemed to dance between known physics and something entirely new. Each pulse carried information, complex, layered, and far beyond human current understanding. Jaehua and Seok Jin entered the research chamber. They could tell from Hyunmi's expression that something significant had happened. "What did you find?" Jaehua asked, her voice tight with anticipation. Hyunmi turned to them, her hands still moving across the holographic controls. "These signals, they're not just random. They're a complete technological interface, an alien system that's been waiting underground for who knows how long." The holographic display shifted. What appeared to be random energy waves began to form clear, precise geometric patterns. Lines connected, disconnected, and reformed with a logic that was both beautiful and terrifying. "It's responding to our technology," Seok Jin observed. "Look how the patterns change when I modify the communication frequency." Hanmi nodded. It's more than responding. It's learning, adapting. The system is actively trying to communicate with our computer networks. The team had discovered something extraordinary. Buried deep beneath the surface of New Horizon was a technological system far more advanced than anything in the known galaxy, and it seemed to be choosing to communicate with humans. Why us? HFY wondered aloud. Of all the species in the galaxy, why would this system choose to interface with humans? The quantum computer continued its analysis. Lines of code that looked like liquid metal flowed across the screens. Complex mathematical equations formed and dissolved in seconds. It was as if the system was testing them, probing their technological capabilities. Hyunmei's hands moved faster now. She was doing something no other engineer would dare. She was trying to talk back to the system. Her fingers danced across quantum encryption protocols, creating response patterns that matched the incoming signals. Suddenly, the entire research facility went quiet. The holographic displays froze for a moment. Then, unexpectedly, they burst into life with a complexity that took their breath away. Information flooded the screens, not just data, but complete technological blueprints, designs for energy systems that defied current scientific understanding, communication protocols that could bypass any known encryption, defense mechanisms that could protect entire planetary systems. "This is impossible," Seek-Jin whispered. Hyunmei's eyes were wide. "No, this is opportunity." The alien system had chosen humans, not because they were the strongest, not because they were the most advanced, but because humans were different, adaptable, willing to look beyond established rules, capable of seeing potential where others saw only limitations. Outside, New Horizons' rocky landscape remained unchanged. But inside this research facility, humanity was about to take its first step into a technology that would change everything. The diplomatic shuttle arrived without warning. Its sleek, silver design stood in sharp contrast to the rough, rocky landscape of New Horizon. Ambassador Woo Jin Park watched from the colony's main administration building, his hands clasped behind his back. He knew why they had come. The Galactic Concordance never made unscheduled visits without a purpose. 3 alien representatives emerged from the shuttle. They were tall, with skin that shifted colors like living metal. The lead diplomat, a creature named Krelltax, moved with calculated precision. Its multiple eyes scanned the human settlement, looking for weakness. Woo Jin stepped forward. He wore the standard diplomatic uniform, simple, dark gray with a single colony patch. No medals, no unnecessary decorations, just a clear message of professional readiness. "Welcome to New Horizon," he said, his voice calm and steady. Krelltax's translator device clicked and whirred. "We are here for a routine inspection," the mechanical voice responded. But Woo Jin knew better. This was not a routine inspection. This was an attempt to control, to limit, to suppress. In the research facility, HFY, Seok-Jin, and Hyunmei watched the diplomatic meeting through hidden communication channels. They knew something the diplomats did not. The alien technological system they had discovered was more than just a discovery. It was a weapon of potential liberation. "They're going to try to shut us down," Seek-Jin whispered. Hyunmei's fingers moved quickly across her control panel. "Not if we have anything to say about it." The diplomatic meeting proceeded formally. Krelltax asked standard questions about the colony's resources, technological development, and population statistics. Woo Jin answered each question precisely, giving nothing away. But something was different this time. The colony's communication systems began to shift, subtle changes that only trained eyes would notice. The computer interfaces responded faster, data transferred more efficiently. It was as if the entire colony had suddenly become more alive. Krelltax paused mid-sentence. Its color-shifting skin began to ripple with what could only be described as confusion. "Your technological infrastructure," the alien diplomat said, "it appears to have changed." Woo Jin smiled, a small, controlled smile that held more meaning than words could express. "Progress happens," he replied simply. In the research facility, Hyunmei was doing something remarkable. She was using the newly discovered alien system to interface with the colony's entire technological network. Each system became faster, smarter, more responsive. The alien technology was teaching human technology how to adapt in ways no one had ever imagined. Krell-Tax's diplomatic calm began to crack. The aliens' multiple eyes darted around the room, trying to understand what was happening. The human colony no longer looked like a simple, controllable settlement. It looked like something else entirely. A potential threat, a potential revolution. "We will need to file a comprehensive report," Krell-Tax finally said, its translator device showing clear signs of stress. Wu Jin nodded. "Of course," he replied. "We always welcome review." But they both knew this was more than a simple diplomatic meeting. This was a first glimpse of something the Galactic Concordance had feared for years. Humanity was changing, and nothing would ever be the same again. The research facility buzzed with an energy that felt almost alive. Hyunmei Lee sat at the center of a web of holographic displays, her fingers moving with a speed that blurred the lines between human and machine. What had started as a mysterious signal was now transforming into something much bigger. "We're ready," she announced to Jae-hwa and Seok-jin. The alien technological system they had discovered was no longer just a passive interface. It had become a living network, teaching human technology to evolve in ways no one could have predicted. Each computer, each communication device, each piece of colony infrastructure was now connected in a way that defied previous understanding. Seok-jin approached the main communication console. "Are you sure about this?" he asked. Hyunmei's eyes never left the holographic displays. "We don't have a choice anymore. They want to keep us silent. We're going to make some noise." With a single touch, she began broadcasting, not just on human frequencies, but across every communication channel the Galactic Concordance used to monitor and control human colonies. The broadcast was beautiful in its complexity. Mathematical patterns that told a story, technological blueprints that showed potential, communication protocols that could bypass any existing encryption. It was a message that said, simply and clearly, humans were not going to be controlled anymore. Across New Horizon, every technological system began to change. Farming robots became more efficient. Communication networks became faster and more secure. Defense systems evolved in real time, learning and adapting faster than any known technology in the galaxy. In the colony's main administration building, Wu Jin Park watched the broadcast begin. He knew what this meant. There was no turning back now. The first response came quickly. A communication burst from the Galactic Concordance, an order to cease all transmissions immediately. But something was different this time. The message couldn't penetrate the colony's new communication shield. Seok-jin laughed, a sound of pure joy and defiance. "They can't even reach us anymore," he said. Hyunmei was already working on the next phase. The alien technological system was teaching them how to do more than just defend. It was showing them how to communicate, how to expand, how to grow in ways no one had imagined. Computer screens across the colony began displaying a simple message. "We are here. We are listening. We will not be silent anymore." The message wasn't just sent to the Galactic Concordance. It was broadcast to every known communication channel in the galaxy. Small colonies, independent worlds, species that had been suppressed for generations. They all received the transmission. "What have we done?" Jae-hwa whispered. Hyunmei turned to her, a smile spreading across her face. "We've started something big." Outside, New Horizon's rocky landscape remained unchanged. But something fundamental had shifted. The human colony was no longer just a small, controlled settlement at the edge of explored space. It had become something else entirely. A beacon of potential. A promise of change. A storm that was just beginning to wake up. The first ships appeared 3 days after the broadcast. Sleek, angular vessels that looked more like weapons than transportation. The Galactic Concordance was not known for subtle responses. Siuk Jin tracked their approach on the main communication screen. 37 ships, he announced, heavily armed. Standard suppression protocol. In the past, such a fleet would have meant certain destruction for a small colony like New Horizon. But everything was different now. Hanmei stood at the colony's main defense control center. Her hands moved across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with living energy. The alien technological system they had discovered was no longer just a tool. It had become a partner. Incoming transmission, the computer announced. The lead ship's communication channel opened. A mechanical voice spoke with cold precision. Human colony New Horizon. You are in direct violation of galactic concordance protocols. Surrender immediate control or face complete elimination. Wu Jin Park stepped forward. His voice was calm, almost gentle. We decline, he said simply. What happened next was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The incoming ships found their weapon systems suddenly confused. Targeting computers spun random coordinates. Weapon charges dissipated before they could be fired. Communication networks became tangled webs of meaningless data. It wasn't destruction. It was something far more powerful. The alien technology had taught the human systems how to defend without killing. Each incoming ship was neutralized, but not harmed. Disabled, but not destroyed. It was a level of technological sophistication that no species had ever seen before. Jaehua watched the screens with a mixture of wonder and concern. We're not attacking them, she said. We're just stopping them. Siuk Jin nodded. Exactly. We're showing them another way. One by one, the concordant ships drifted helplessly. Their crews confused, their systems completely non-functional, but alive. Untouched. Simply stopped. The broadcast continued. Not just a message of defiance, but a message of possibility. The alien technology showed glimpses of potential. Communication protocols that could connect instead of divide. Defense systems that protected without destroying. Technological solutions that saw beyond conflict. Hours passed. The disabled fleet remained in place, a silent testament to a new kind of power. Hyunmi's fingers continued to move across the interfaces. The alien system was learning, adapting, showing them new possibilities with each passing moment. It wasn't just about defense. It was about understanding. They're going to be angry, Wu Jin said, watching the disabled ships. Siuk Jin smiled. They're going to be confused. And that's even better. As night fell on New Horizon, the rocky landscape remained unchanged. But something fundamental had shifted in the galaxy. A small human colony had just shown that there were alternatives to destruction. That power could be about protection, not punishment. That technology could be a bridge, not a weapon. The storm was no longer just awakening. It was beginning to roar. The first message came quietly. A simple communication burst that slipped through the gaps of the Galactic Concordance's communication network. Siuk Jin almost missed it, buried among thousands of other transmissions. Something's different, he muttered, zooming in on the signal. The message was from Ralka, a small independent trading world on the edge of explored space. They had been watching, listening, and they were not alone. Jaehua leaned over Siuk Jin's shoulder. Decode it, she said. The message was simple but powerful. We CEU. We understand. We are not alone anymore. More messages began to arrive. Small colonies, marginalized species, worlds that had been pushed to the edges of galactic society. They had watched the human colonies broadcast. They had seen how New Horizon had stopped the Concordance fleet without destroying it. And they wanted to know more. Hanmi joined them, her eyes reflecting the incoming communication streams. They're sharing information, she said. Technological hints, communication protocols, defense strategies. It was like watching a web form in real time. Each message brought new connections, new possibilities. The alien technological system they had discovered seemed to help them understand each communication, translating not just words, but intentions. A message from a methane-breathing species near the galactic core, another from a silicon-based life form in a distant cluster. Each brought a piece of a larger puzzle. Each showed that they had been waiting, watching, hoping for something to change. Woo Jin Park studied the incoming transmissions. They'd been suppressed too, he realized. Not just humans. Entire species have been kept from reaching their full potential. The communications center became something more than a room. It became a meeting place, a place where different species could share their stories, their technologies, their hopes. One message stood out. From Ralka, the first world to reach out. They wanted to send a diplomatic mission, not as conquerors, not as controllers, but as learners. They want to understand how we did this, Sik Jin said. Hanmi smiled. We didn't do anything. The technology chose us, showed us a different way. The alien system continued to work its magic. It helped translate messages that would have been impossible to understand before. It showed connection points between species that had never spoken before. It revealed potential where others saw only differences. Outside, New Horizons' rocky landscape remained unchanged. But something massive was happening. A network was forming. A network of hope, of possibility. Small worlds began to share resources. Communication technologies improved. Defense systems became collaborative instead of competitive. The Galactic Concordance's control was crumbling, not through violence, but through understanding. We started something, Jae-Hwa whispered. Seok Jin nodded. Something big. The storm that had awakened was no longer just a human storm. It had become something much larger. A storm of potential. A storm of change. A storm that would reshape everything. Jae-Hwa stood before the massive communication array. Her fingers hovered above the final activation sequence. This was more than just another broadcast. This was going to change everything. The research team had spent weeks preparing. Every piece of information they had discovered about the Galactic Concordance's suppression tactics was carefully compiled. Every hidden document, every secret communication, every moment of systematic limitation. Are you sure about this? Suk Jin asked, his voice quiet. Hanmi stepped forward. We have to be sure, she replied. The galaxy needs to know the truth. The alien technological system hummed around them. It was more than just a tool now. It was a partner, a witness, a guardian of truth. With a single touch, Jae-Hwa began the broadcast. The message was not just a transmission. It was a complete information package. Layers of encrypted data that would bypass normal communication barriers. Scientific records, diplomatic communications, hidden reports that showed how the Galactic Concordance had been controlling technological development for generations. Images appeared, documents that were never meant to be seen. Communication logs that revealed a systematic effort to keep certain species from advancing. Technological limitation protocols that had been secretly implemented across multiple worlds. The broadcast showed everything. How smaller colonies were kept under strict technological control. How innovative species were deliberately slowed down. How potential was crushed before it could grow. But the transmission was more than just evidence of suppression. It was a message of hope. Each piece of information was accompanied by alternative solutions, ways that species could grow, develop, connect. The alien technology helped translate the complex information so that every species could understand. Woo Jin Park watched the broadcast from the administration center. This changes everything, he said quietly. The communication networks of the galaxy began to light up. Worlds that had been silent suddenly found their voices. Species that had been kept in the dark began to see the light. The Galactic Concordance's communication systems began to break down. Firewalls crumbled. Encryption protocols failed. The truth was spreading faster than they could stop it. They tried to keep us quiet, Suk Jin said, watching the transmission spread. But they didn't understand. Silence only makes us want to speak louder. Hyunmi's fingers moved across the holographic interfaces. The alien technological system was helping them do something remarkable. Not just broadcasting information, but helping different species understand each other. Translation protocols that went beyond words, that connected intentions, feelings, hopes. Hours passed. The broadcast continued. Small colonies began to respond. Marginalized species shared their stories. Worlds that had been kept separate now found connection points. The galaxy was waking up. The Galactic Concordance's control was crumbling. Not through violence, not through destruction, but through understanding. We're not just sharing information, HFY said, watching the transmissions. We're showing a different way of existing. Outside, New Horizons' rocky landscape remained unchanged. But something massive was happening. A revolution of information. A storm of truth that could not be stopped. The silence they wanted had awoken something much more powerful. 6 months after the broadcast, New Horizon looked different. The rocky landscape remained the same, but everything else had changed. Ships from dozens of different species now orbited the planet, not as a threat, not as an invasion, but as visitors, learners, allies. HFY stood on the observation deck, watching the incoming vessels. Each one represented a world that had been transformed by the truth they had revealed. The Galactic Concordance's control was gone. Something new was forming. "We didn't conquer," Seok Jin said, joining her. "We connected." The alien technological system they had discovered continued to work its magic. It wasn't just a tool anymore. It was a bridge between species, a way of understanding that went beyond words, beyond technology, beyond old barriers. Han Mai entered the room, her hands full of communication reports. "The first multi-species technology council is forming," she announced. "And we're not in charge. We're just participants." That was the real victory. No one was being controlled anymore. Every species had a voice. Every world had a chance to grow. Wu Jin Park walked in, looking tired but satisfied. The diplomatic work had been exhausting, breaking down centuries of controlled communication, helping species learn to talk to each other, to understand each other. "The Concordance is completely dismantled," he said, "not through war, but through understanding." Outside, smaller ships continued to arrive. Research vessels, diplomatic missions, worlds that had been isolated now finding connection. The galaxy was relearning how to communicate. The alien technological system had shown them something important. Technology wasn't about control. It was about connection, about potential, about helping each other grow. HFY remembered the first day they discovered the strange signals, how scared they had been, how uncertain. Now, everything was different. "We didn't do this alone," she said quietly. Seok Jin nodded. "The technology chose us, but we chose to listen." More reports came in. Technological exchanges between species that had never spoken before. Collaborative research projects. Shared resources. The walls were coming down, not through destruction, but through understanding. Han Mai looked at the communication screens. Each one showed a different world, a different species, all connected, all learning. "This is what potential looks like," she said. The observation deck fell silent. They all understood what they had started, what they had finished, a new way of existing in the galaxy. Outside, New Horizons' rocky landscape remained unchanged, but everything around it was transforming. A storm of possibility, a revolution of understanding. The silence they wanted had awoken something much more powerful. Hope. Epilogue ***. Years later, people would still talk about the moment everything changed. The small human colony that showed the galaxy a different way. Not through force, not through control, but through listening, through understanding, through potential.